Welcome to the January 16th.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Thursday, January 16th, 2025 meeting of the Architectural Review Board. This is the first meeting for 2025. So welcome back after the new year, everybody. Thank you, guys. We're going to start off with a call to order and roll call.
Chair Rosenberg.
Present.
Vice Chair Chen. Present. Board Member Adcock.
Present.
Board Member Balte.
Present.
Board Member Hirsch.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we open the board floor to public comment. This is the time that's available for anyone from the public who wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda. If there's something on the agenda that you would like to respond to, you will have time for that later. If you'd like to speak about anything off the agenda, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Do we have any public speaker cards or raised hands on Zoom?
I have no requests to speak.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll close public comment at this time. Now moving on to agenda changes, additions, and deletions for this meeting.
No changes or deletion.
Great, okay. So we will dive right into city official reports. Take it away. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to the first meeting of 2025. Bear with me while I share my screen. All right, so jumping right in, we have a few upcoming and recently submitted items that were detailed in the staff report. So anticipating for the February 6th meeting, we will have two projects. Those are 70 Encina and 164 Hamilton Ave. So that 70 Encina project was a rezone and a multifamily residential project. So that would be the second hearing for that address, and 164 Hamilton Ave are some minor facade changes, and that would be the first hearing for that project. As for recently submitted items, 2100 King Road is a site and design and conditional use permit, and that is 137 multifamily townhomes. Moving on, we have some meeting schedule. So as noted by the chair and myself, this is the first meeting of the year. We will have 2 meetings in February following with the regular schedule of 2 meetings per month. And there have yet to be made any ad hoc committee assignments for this year. And I do just want to note that earlier this week on Tuesday in the evening, the city council, or should I say the city attorney and city clerk sponsored a public government refresher. So once that video is available, I will be sending that out to the board that just discussed some Brown Act meeting organization, as well as some changes with state legislature. So stay tuned. And with that, I can entertain any further questions.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Question about if we should be assigning any ad hocs to any of these upcoming ones. The Gang Avenue, the Gang Road looks like it's one that would want to be reviewed, and I would also have some questions about our standards for minimum size and having multiple types of units on a property. So that's something I'd like to make sure that we touch base on before anyone gets too far down the wrong road. So that would be one. And then other than that, I'm not too worried about anything else in terms of ad hoc meetings, but if you guys had anything else that you think would be a good idea to have what we would call like a pre-ad hoc, and that's just to review the package for completeness without any judgment. But at this time, I'm not necessarily thinking we need to assign anything. So unless you guys had a difference of opinion, I think we're good to move forward.
That would be acceptable. So
okay, perfect. All right, so city official reports. We note that we also have board member Adcock will be out on February 20th. And if anyone else, as per usual, just as the 2025 reminder, if you guys will be out, please email city staff and let them know ahead of time so they can include it. And we can make sure that we have quorums moving forward. All right, with that, I think we will go on to action item number 2. So action item number 2, public hearing quasi judicial for 640 Waverly Street. Recommendation on applicant's request for major architectural review to allow the demolition of 2 existing buildings on a 5,277 square foot lot and redevelopment of the proposed 4-story approximately 11,050 square feet, mixed-use development with ground floor office and 4 residential units above. And I believe if I'm remembering correctly, we've seen this one twice before, so this is the third hearing for this one.
There was one preliminary review hearing, and this is the second formal
Official.
of the formal application.
Perfect. That is the exact clarification I needed. Thanks very much. And take it away.
Claire Raybold, interim manager, current planning. I am the project planner for this project. As you noted, this is for 640 Waverly Street. It's a major architectural review application. Project proposes to replace 2 existing buildings, office uses on a 5,227 square foot parcel with a new 4-story mixed use development that replaces the ground floor office with a slight increase and 4 residential units above. Total floor area is 2.12 to 1, which is a slight decrease from what you saw before. It was originally a 2.16 total floor area. There's 6 parking stalls for residential use in the parking garage proposed. The project is designed to meet the intent of the objective standards as allowed in the code versus meeting all of the objective standards. And so what that means is the project is processed as a major architectural review with a formal recommendation from the board. And it's also subject to the context-based design criteria instead of the objective standards. It's also subject to the downtown design guidelines, although there aren't really any relevant ones that apply to this project. And CDC zone district requirements and the ARB findings. And this is just a brief site overview of the site plan. And so key modifications based on ARB comments included some additional details regarding how the parking worked. In particular, this is a unique design that has a lift system down to the below grade parking garage. So there are some additional details as indicated in the staff report to show how some pictures of how this lift system works. Basically, it goes down. It's not visible. There's a gate that kind of blocks it when you're looking at it from the street. When a car needs to come out or go in, the lift system comes up, and this is a general concept of what that's going to look like. This was redesigned, if you recall, based on a number of discussions with the neighboring property owner who had some concerns mostly about kind of how this development was going to look in comparison to like looking out his windows, and he really didn't want to have something really large in front of his kitchen windows on the side of his property. So the applicant worked in conjunction with him to find a design that kind of would be acceptable to him. So this is what's now proposed for the project. There were also comments about context with 636 Waverly on the other side of the property. And so in particular, there was some concerns with how much cement was being viewed. Can we provide a better design that kind of has less cement that the neighboring residents are going to be looking out onto? So there have been some refinements to the design. They do have to meet building code, and so that was a significant concern in how to kind of meet your comments, but still meeting building code. And so there have been some refinements to kind of add different material in on that 4th floor level, and kind of refining the design of the location of that outdoor area. Privacy screening on the frontage was also a concern, kind of how that looked from the street, and whether it would make it kind of in the end look too boxed. And so there were modifications to the design that really just added some space between the slats to allow more kind of a little bit more visibility in. And I'm sure the applicant will speak a little bit more to that in their presentation. There were also concerns about plant maintenance and planter design. There were some additional details that were added to show the planter design and some modifications to the planter locations. And there was also a memorandum that was prepared by SWA Landscape Architects to explain how the plants would be maintained long-term, and standard conditions of approval that were added for, long-term maintenance. And we actually aligned the conditions of approval with what was presented in that SWA architecture memo to require that they implement those measures. And I just want to note as well that in addition to these modifications, the California Environmental Quality Act review was not complete when we came last time. So that was the reason we could not make a recommendation last time. It is now complete. The city prepared in conjunction with David J. Powers and Associates, a 15183 streamlined review, which is for infill projects that are consistent with our comprehensive plan, environmental impact report, and comprehensive plan. And so there were some measures that are implemented in consistent with the mitigation measures required under the EIR, mostly related to noise and vibrations to protect the neighboring properties and neighboring residents, and standard conditions of approval that get incorporated for the protection of cultural resources as well. And with that, staff recommends that the Architecture Review Board recommend approval of the proposed project to the Director of Planning and Development Services based on the findings in Attachment B and subject to conditions of approval. And with that, I will turn it back to you and recommend that you hear from the applicant.
Great, thank you, Claire. And I apologize, I'm a little bit out of order coming back to this first meeting of the year. I did want to ask for any disclosures and whether or not other board members have visited the site. Since this is the third time we have seen this project, had eyes on this project, I would assume that everyone has visited the site before per our previous meetings, but I would like to restate whether they have visited it recently or not, and if there's any additional disclosures since our previous disclosures may have been stated. So don't mind going down the line, that would be great. We'll start with Board Member Adcock.
And no additional disclosures. I visited the site at the previous hearing.
Perfect.
I visited the site on Tuesday, and I was not here during the last meeting, but I watched the video.
Okay. I have no additional disclosures. I visited the site of the previous hearings.
I visited the site yesterday and this morning. No other disclosures.
Same as Peter here.
Great. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate your patience with my out of order there. I would also like to ask if the ARB has any questions specifically related to staff. So we're going to keep these brief and we will move on to the applicant presentation after that. But just in case anyone had any immediate pressing questions to staff, now would be a good time to ask them. None? Okay, great. We'll move forward with the applicant presentation. If you don't mind stepping up to the microphone, you'll have 10 minutes to speak. Thank you very much. And please state and spell your name for the record.
Spell it too.
Good morning, Chair Rosenberg, members of the board. My name is Ken Hayes with Hayes Group Architects, KenHayes. I'll be making the presentation on behalf of my client, Clarissa Shen and James Lynn, who are here today with us. We are also joined by Ben Waldo with SWA Landscape Architects, so he's on Zoom, and also my son Mason Hayes, the project architect and designer. So we were here in June and had really good feedback from you, and there was actually a straw vote held, but no action could be taken because of, as Planner Raybold said, that there was CEQA had not been completed yet, but now it's completed, and we have used the time since then to respond to some of your comments. I'd like to go through those as well as some refinements that we have made to the project. Just to reacquaint you. Full screen. Oh. No, I'm just full screen. Yeah. There we go. So just to reacquaint you, this is the basement. All the parking for the housing is in the basement. And storage is there for the residential units as well. So there's no commercial associated with the basement except for any kind of back of house. Anything that is in red is essentially areas that we've addressed, either respond to comments or things that we have changed. So that we're going to talk about this side of the building where the residential entry is. We still have the paseo. Everything else is as you saw before. You guys don't see it?
We do not see any color on the screen. There we go.
I thought I was in a PDF. Anyway,
Not a
sorry.
problem.
Okay. So, all right, now that's the first floor. So we still have the paseo, the stair two at the rear, the courtyard, the car lift, and now. All right, so now it's not advancing, Mason. What's going on?
First meeting of the year always has. hiccups.
Okay,
Don't
all
worry
right,
about
should
it.
just leave me alone. Sorry, all right, stop share. And well, I can share.
Ken, it's time to let your kid take over.
What time is it in the morning?
Everybody reaches this point, you know.
So, am I doing it or? Yeah. I'm gonna let you do it. Yeah, all right, so let me go back. And I thought these were PDFs. They are, yeah. But okay, all right, there we go. I didn't know why it wasn't advancing. Okay, so now we're first floor, explain that. Now we're on the second floor. Again, we're addressing the residential entry area as well as stair two. On the third floor, similar areas that we've addressed. And remember, there's a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom on the second floor. There's a 1-bedroom in front here on the third floor, and at the back is the owner's unit where their bedrooms are. And on the fourth floor is the owner's living area, which we're also addressing the screen in front, and you should have that with you there. And then when we get to the fourth floor, again, we're addressing the interface with 636 Waverly. Comments from last time, you said, can you provide a diagram of procedures on how that lift works? I'm happy to do that. I have slides at the end of the presentation. We can cover it then if you're interested, but it just is too much time right now. And it's all, and since I screwed up, I have less time. So it's on A01.0 if you want to see it. This is the lift down and the lift up. If we go to the planter development, so you had talked about, you know, looking at how that planter might be able to be refined. And we had shown planting on stair number 2 on the face, but we didn't really understand how the plants were going to grow up it. So we have on the drawing on the bottom is the revised from what you saw before. So we've actually eliminated that roof and planter that was above the entry. So the entry is now kind of open to the sky, but we have a canopy for protection. And we've scaled that planter back, as you can see below. And then on the stair, we have added planters at each of the landing levels. And so that's a planter that is fixed and attached, and it can be watered and maintained from the stair side, but the creeping fig will grow through the vines, and then it'll also be creeping fig in the planter below, which is where we only had it before, and it was probably optimistic to think that it would grow all the way up the lattice. SWA did provide details regarding planting and irrigation. The takeaways there's permanent irrigation to all the planters in ground and raised planter areas. The schedule for maintenance will be quarterly for all of the private areas and monthly for ground level common landscaped areas. And maintenance means replacing dead plant material, fixing irrigation systems, pruning, weeding, and so on, as well as access for planters that will require OSHA compliant access, which is a couple planters at the front. Another comment that you made was, maybe you should study the spacing of the grill work, which you have there in front of you. We've increased that spacing by about 30%. So it's a 25 mm bar, or it's an extrusion, and then a 50 mm space, 25 mm bar, So it's like 1 inch, 2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inch, and that will be the spacing of the screen, and the screens still stay operable at the front so that you can control your privacy there. This is what where we were last time on the interface with 636. And you said, hey, think about maybe how it could maybe soften up and respond better to 636 Waverly, a building that we also designed 10 years ago. And so looking at this is the gray basically, and the drawing on the top was the previous submittal where we had all the concrete, and now we've modulated it down below. We've created more cutouts that kind of reduce the scale, but what's cool is that those cutouts now respond better to the footprint of 636. So where 636 has a void, we've increased our void into the building there. As you go up to the 4th floor, we've increased the void where the garden is, and so that when you are in the unit on the 4th floor, this is what the view was like. Where we have a Japanese maple in the deep rooftop planter, and now we've reduced that down like that. So it goes from that to that. So inside, actually, it's much nicer. You can see the sky. You'll get some late afternoon sun, perhaps, but we still have the privacy that we want from the unit next door. Those are bedrooms of the unit next door that would face into this area, and then just some shots of what the building looks like. We have support of both the neighbors on either side of the building. Of course, city parking lot at the rear. And this is the ground floor paseo. You can see the gates at the lift on the left-hand side. So you would drive in and you hit your fob, the gates open. But before you do that, you would stop at the podium, push the button, the lift rises up. The lift is always in the down position so that there's this steel platform that will have the same paving that the driveway has on top of it. And you'll see that here, I think, in a second. That's the rear of the building. The tree in the foreground is a cherry. It must be a fruitless cherry. And that's in the city's parking lot with the low planting as part of it. Our paseo kind of focuses on that. At the end of the paseo, there's an opening. Then you can see we have the creeping fig at the rear as well as the planters on the balconies. And then, so then you can see the paving on top of the lift there to the upper right of this drawing, and then the small kind of courtyard breakout space below. And so this was a lot of coordination with the owner of the historic building next door. We're quite happy with how it ended up, and want to thank my client for actually having done the research to find this lift. And that's it. And so looking forward to any questions that you have, happy to answer them. But really looking forward to moving this project along. It has a 2012 job number. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hayes. You still have 1 minute left. And I just want to confirm you covered everything you wanted to cover with the parking lift.
Well, if I have the minute, I'll do it right now.
Okay.
All right. So step one, as you drive down Waverly Street, there'll be a traffic signal on a bollard that will either be red or green, indicating that the lift is not being used at the time. You would pull in. Step two, well, that step two is the traffic signal. Step three, you pull your vehicle in on the podium on the left, you would hit the button, and the lift would rise up from the basement. It's always in the basement. And then you would hit your fob in the car at step 5. The gates would open now that the lift is up, and you drive onto the lift platform. Step 6, you hit your fob and the gates close, and you then hit step 7, the podium, and you descend down into the garage as the diagram on the right is showing. And then step 8, you get to the bottom of the garage, you hit your fob, the gates open, and you drive into the garage. And then it's kind of the reverse going out. And I don't know, probably don't need to go over that, but you hit the gate, you come in, you hit now the podium is on the left, or the the button. So it's on, there's two of them, one on either side of the vehicle. And then you would go up and hit the fob and out you go to the street.
Great. And
That's it.
that's your time. Thank you very
Wow,
much.
amazing.
Appreciate
All
it.
right, thank you.
We're going to hold on questions to the applicant until after any public comment. If there is public comment, the applicant will have time to rebut. So Veronica, do we have any raised hands or public comment cards?
Yes, looks like I have one raised hand on Zoom from Christopher.
Thank you. And Christopher, if you would like to make your public comment, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Christopher Cow, Christopher, last name Kao. And just want to check you can hear me, correct?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. I am a resident of East Palo Alto. I often see this existing building, the one that was mentioned at 636. I'm a big supporter of this project. I remember first time I encountered 636, the existing project, was when I often frequent the Palo Alto Farmers Market on Saturdays. And because the parking lot is right there to the south, it's the one thing you see. And I've always been really inspired seeing that building. I think it is really cool seeing that density, and I liked all of the landscapes on it. And I always wondered, when will this lot next to it become something like this? Because it kind of stands out right now. It'd be nice to have more. So I just wanted to offer some support for this project. I'm not getting compensated to say this or anything. I'm speaking freely, and I just think it really beautifies this part of Palo Alto. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else?
That's all our speakers.
Okay. And did we also get a letter in from a letter of support in for this project as well, sent via email?
Yes, correct. Part of the public comments received that I emailed out yesterday morning.
Great.
And I can briefly summarize. It was
Yes.
Stephen Levy who noted that he lives nearby this project and expressed support for the project.
Okay. With that, we will close the comments for public speakers. If the applicant has any rebuttals to anything made at this time, you may do so. We don't encourage an additional presentation. It's more if you have anything to respond to the comments.
No, thank you for your support,
Not a problem.
Mr. Cow.
All right, we'll turn this over to the ARB now. Questions to applicants or staff? Does anyone have any questions? I have a couple small ones to the applicant, if that's all right. So just to kick us off. Morning, Mr. Hayes. The rear paseo, does that open to that rear parking lot, or is that closed off now?
No, it's open.
It is open. Okay, and one
Yeah.
of the floor plans, if you don't mind pulling that up, that main floor plan.
Yeah, there's a planter. There's an elevation difference. It's
Yes.
several feet, like probably 30 inches.
Okay.
But when you look down the paseo, there is daylight and you're looking above
Here we go. Yep, that
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah,
the
so that's
green
open.
there.
yeah, that's a low planter.
Okay, so but can you walk from that
No.
paseo out the back? No.
No.
Okay, and the reason for that is
It's private property owned by
private
the city. Yeah.
was there ever consideration for a gate on that rear end, anything like that, just in case there was like an emergency egress, something like that, that would 99% of the time stay shut, but just in case of a quick evacuation that could provide?
We've never considered that. no.
Okay, not a problem, just asking.
Yep.
And then with the car lift, I really sincerely appreciate your clear example of how that works. My question is in regards to sort of right of way, and I don't know if you'll necessarily have the answers right now. If a car is coming down the road and trying to pull in, but there's a car actively coming out, I assume that car would have the right of way. Now, the question is if there's a car that wants to leave and there's a car that wants to get in, and neither of them have gotten to the lift yet,
Yeah.
who gets the right of way? It's just whoever hits the fob first, or is it sort of
No,
there's
I think-
sensors?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that as soon as someone activates the gate, well, I know, as soon as someone activates the gate in the basement, the light will turn red.
Got it.
And there's
Okay.
probably going to be 2 minutes between that time and when the car actually is able to leave at the ground floor level.
Mhm.
If there's no traffic, you've got a car waiting. if there's traffic, I would imagine they'll go around the block
Got it.
and then
Okay.
come back. But there's only, I mean, there's 8 spaces the way the city and the state counts parking, because the unloading space for the ADA van and the
Right.
EVSE are counted as spaces, but there's really only 6 cars in the basement.
Got
So
it.
we don't anticipate a lot of traffic.
Sure. And yeah, it's a rare instance. I just want to see what it's accounting for. And if you don't mind going back to the basement plan, I think it's 1 lift or 1, there we go.
Oh.
That's it. That's fine.
For the lift or for the general
For the
basement?
general basement would be great. There we go. So there's a space to the right of the car lift. Is that a space that somebody could like back up into if it was a maintenance van, something like that, or a delivery van? I mean, what is that space used for? Or is that just purely for storage? So is the
So,
car
I
is
don't
shown
know
to drive out
have a
and
gate.
get
You
into the
could.
parking spaces.
You could theoretically, if you fit, if one would fit with the vehicle, it looks like you could. The back, there's no reason why you couldn't have a gate on both sides. If you needed to
Mhm.
back up, you could do that, but it was not intended as a parking space.
Okay.
It has a gate, so you can get traffic. Oh, yeah, it has a gate.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
so
Yeah,
you could.
So the residents bring their trash up that way. So
Ah,
the trash room for the residential, in the set, there's a page that diagrams how the residential trash facility in the basement, because originally
right.
we had it all at grade, and one of the comments we got at the preliminary was separate them. I think Board Member Hirsch said it, separate the residential and the commercial so that, and the residential maybe needs to be more convenient. So we put it in the basement.
Mhm.
If you're going out, you bring your trash down. But trash on trash day can be taken out up the car lift. And so there is a gate.
It's pretty convenient. Okay. All right. That's all my questions. Thank you very
Right.
much.
May I
You're
ask a
welcome.
follow-up question on the gate? The car lift gate, how does it work? Is it functional like up and down or swing or?
Swings.
Okay.
The gate that is at grade
Mhm.
at the
No,
driveway,
no, at the basement.
at the basement, I believe they go up. Yeah.
And that's why you have the basement so deep.
That's
But-
one reason.
Okay.
And there may also be a idea of future parking. If there's ever a need for future parking, it could, you know,
Yeah, I
they
was
could add
about
lifts
to
or
ask,
something
yeah, whether you consider the puzzle parking
If-
system.
if needed. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're fully parked for the residential right now, and then there's no commercial parking. This project does not work if commercial parking was imposed on it. You
Right.
cannot have a driveway like we have.
Understand?
So that opened this whole thing up was when AB 2097 allowed us to get away with, or not get away, eliminate the commercial parking.
Yeah, I understand that parking is actually not required in this case for residential, but you provided some parking space in this case.
Yes.
And, but if you consider the puzzle parking system, then maybe you can save one space for like manure, like turn back and be easier for the car to get in, get out on the lift.
Oh, like a backup space
Yeah.
or something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And another
Now,
question.
I'm sorry, may I say one thing?
Mhm.
So, right now the garage is shown 18 feet deep.
Right.
If in the end, it just becomes insurmountable to do from a cost standpoint, this is what we want, it's what the client wants. But if that garage could potentially be reduced to 10 feet deep, and then there would be no possibility for any kind of future parking, but it's not required.
Right.
So I want some flexibility there as we work through the pricing, I think, with the contractor.
Gotcha. And another question regarding the materials. So you have 2 colors of concrete, right? Oh,
No, I think it's just one,
okay, because
two textures.
okay, on one of the elevations showing on the presentation, I saw one is gray and the other is more like yellowish color.
So the color, if that's the case, it's just a graphic, but the color, somewhere up there, you should have the Sika colors.
Uh-huh. And so one is
So it's
smooth and the
One
other is
smooth,
textured.
one is textured,
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Yeah, and that's it's the one that has the dot, Board Member Beltane.
And for the privacy screening, the finish would be the wood look liking? Or?
No, it's not wood. It is the other finish. It's the dark ribbed finish that Board Member Hirsch is holding right now.
Okay, then,
Those are the fins
Board
and
Member Hirsch, do you mind passing some of those down?
Yeah.
We will hold them up for the camera.
that's the spacing.
okay. Okay, and on the rendering, I saw there is a canopy looking thing that leading to the paseo. And
Right.
so what's the thought of that? Because when I saw the rendering, I saw, oh, maybe it's leading to the main entrance, but actually the main entrance doesn't have a canopy feature like that.
It does actually. Let me,
Alright. So.
so that canopy there,
Mhm.
it goes all the way across that front area,
Okay,
and-
yes.
but it doesn't extend down the paseo, but a few feet
Okay.
there.
Because on the,
And,
there is
and
a, yeah, this one, it doesn't seem like to be in that case, or it's just hard to tell.
well, so we're trying to accentuate just the geometry of the paseo. So we have the structure going all the way across. The main door to the ground floor commercial is parallel with the street, if you will, on the
Mhm.
right-hand side. You're already under the building at that point,
Right.
so you're protected. But the structure of the canopy kind of frames it, right? So,
Right.
so it's partially, defined by the canopy, but the protection's provided by the building above.
Got you. So what's the supporting system for this canopy? I saw there is something above that is,
Right, so that is a steel plate, and you see the rod on the left
Mhm,
coming down. So that rod holds the horizontal T-section
mhm.
that then is supported by the concrete wall on the right. And then there's another one further in that's going to have to do the same thing.
Got you. Thank you. And another thing on the fourth floor, so you changed the material at where the tree garden is.
Correct.
So what is the attachment, like the detailed treatment between the connection between the metal panel to the concrete wall?
So at this location, we don't have any fire issues to worry about because everything there is open to the sky. So
Mhm.
I see this as a plate of some kind, steel plate, that is painted to match all the other M2, which is the general metal color. And
No, I mean,
yeah, I would say it's going to be attached on the outside of the concrete. So you
Okay.
see the concrete curb there at the bottom.
right.
And so the plate would come down on the outside of that and most likely attached into the concrete. So we don't have waterproofing issues to worry about there.
Okay, so from the neighbor side, they will see some of the attachment.
Connections,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, all right. That's my question. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Can I follow up with some material questions as well? Thank you. So actually on the rendering, we're seeing on the screen,
Yep.
the vertical boards, is that this one, the tongue and groove wood cladding?
Correct. So that's if it's on the outside, yeah, it's the Western red cedar. We'd like to bring that to the inside so you see it on the ceiling as well.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask. So ceiling is also tongue and groove?
It'll be, or it'll be shiplap of some kind, yeah, with a reveal probably,
Okay.
yeah. And that only occurs at the fourth floor on the upper residence. So you don't see that wood anywhere else except the top floor.
And in the same rendering over on the right, looks like there's a canopy in that right to the right of the garden. Is that similar to the front entrance canopy?
Yes, in terms of material,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the plate, and that provides, the bottom of that is 8 feet from the finished floor.
Mhm.
This is the main entrance to the fourth floor unit. And that provides protection at the elevator and until you get under the upper roof to get to the front door. So it's all protected.
And that canopy would be the M2 painted material, metal, sorry.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
In terms of color, yes.
And just a question about the colors. So you have two tones of metal, the corrugated in your rendering that kind of looks dark. You've increased the spacing.
Right.
That's a darker tone than other metals, the painted metal. So when it comes to like these window mullions and all of that, is it all this lighter, a little bit more
I think
kind of a
so,
mica
yeah.
finish? Okay. Thank you. And then one last question about the architectural concrete. that's textured here. That's the diagram you have over there. That's,
Yes, yeah, there's an 8.5 by 11 form liner picture. And it's like a corrugated, it's a 2-inch pattern. And so we have that modulating with smooth concrete.
and that's all cast in place or precast?
No, it's all cast in
And
place.
Board Member Adcock, I'm going to ask that you try and hold it up while speaking so the camera can get to you and show this to the public as well. Thank you.
Yes,
So this diagram on the front on this paper is the 2-inch
That's right.
spacing corrugated vertical corrugations
correct,
and cast in place, which is that pattern.
correct.
Yeah,
And then the
okay.
color is the Sika color, shady mist or something like that. The one with the red dot.
If I
Yeah.
keep talking, the camera will come to me. There we go.
Yes, that is the color.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
I have a question about the lift to begin. What about, could you describe some of the emergency issues there? I understand you have a battery backup in case of electrical. How does it work if someone happens to be in the middle of the lift when the emergency
Well,
happens?
if, I see. So if the power went out as you're on the lift itself,
Mhm.
you know, that's a good question. I don't know if it continues up or if it returns to the lower level. It goes down. It goes down.
Goes down.
So it'll go down to that level. You'd have to get out and
Get
go out
out
the
and
stair
walk the rest of the way.
to the exit stair.
Yeah. Mhm. But does that will operate all of the gates that are involved as well? I mean,
Yes.
it's a one arrangement deal
Correct.
with a lift. There's no, well, maybe you could point out some of the cover of the entryway. There's some kind of a cover in the passageway that's open to the sky there,
Oh, at the residential entry?
residential entry.
Yeah, so I don't have a slide, but on the drawings,
Which one?
there's a section on A3. Well, A306, there's a section down the length of it. And you see there, it says residential entry. So Waverly is on the right hand side. So you would enter and there's a low steel canopy between the concrete wall and the building, which would be where, you know, foreground of the page. And that's at 8 feet. That's where the gate is for someone to, it's a secure gate. You would enter and then it's open to the sky now in that whole zone, except that we have another plate awning that spans the gap between the concrete wall on one side and then the metal wall on the other. And that's shown with that thin line that says 15 feet. All right. And then it's open to the building beyond. Now, there's a cross section the other way, and I was looking this morning. So go to A308. And graphically, the drawing could be better. There's a line weight issue, but you see where it says residential entry. On the right-hand side, the pochade wall is the metal wall. And then there's a steel canopy that is at the.
And we have an
Oh,
excellent
actually,
image
Mason can-
provided
oh,
by
perfect.
Mason up on the screen as well.
All right, that's it. Okay.
Oh, there you
You're right, Peter. I need to go home.
Good, it's been anticipated. Thank you.
You're doing great. Keep going.
It just didn't get into our packet, but that's a essential kind of vision of that.
We think it's just so much, it's much nicer than what we had before. It was a 2-story space before,
Yeah.
but it was capped with concrete and we had a planter on top. But, and so now it makes the entry a little bit more dramatic, I think, and has light. And we can get, you know, plant material in there as well.
So your idea here in many cases is to kind of walls slip next to other walls, right? They slip next to other
Yeah.
walls.
Right.
There's a kind of a separation that
And they slide.
defines the kind of materials and keeps them separate.
Right.
Okay.
And then you also see that vocabulary on the commercial canopy entrance as well. So it's consistent.
Yeah.
And then that would be the fourth floor too.
So at the rear of the building interior wall is kept in a little bit, but there's a kind of in-out issue at the rear of the parking lot, at the
In, out.
wall construction there. I couldn't really understand what's outside and what's inside on that.
So should I go back to sharing?
Yeah. Yeah, so you see there,
Let me go back to my set of drawings.
is there a section through that?
So at the rear, if I go all the way down, so the main wall on the first floor is 12 inches in from the property line. And that creates an area where we would have vines planted on the city parking lot side of the wall. So that would be this part here. You can see my cursor.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then this part here, Board
The
Member
gate.
Hirsch, is open. So that's like a 5-foot opening.
Mhm.
That is daylight from about this height up to 14 feet, right? So you're looking at the cherry tree.
Yeah, up to the overhang.
Right.
Mhm.
The overhang is actually, so you see the dotted line here, and then it returns there. That's open to the sky.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because otherwise we'd have a fire issue, right? With an opening in an exterior wall. And then the stair is in alignment with the concrete wall on the other side, and again, has the creeping fig there. So if I go to the next floor up, this notch here goes all the way down to that first floor.
Mhm.
And so that also provides fire access to this rear bedroom as well. Does that answer your question?
That fire access to.
So that they can get a ladder, so they would come,
Okay.
yeah, the
The
ladder
fire-
access to that window.
The
Right.
fire department
Right.
diagrams there.
Sorry, yeah.
So I was really talking about what happens with the rear of the building where it looks like it comes out and comes in, the rear of the solid area, residential area of the building.
So the wall here on the upper side there with 636 goes all the way out to 1 foot from the property line, and that runs full height. Then these balconies cut into that. So this becomes the rear wall of the building, except where the balconies are. And then at the fourth floor, obviously the roof above hangs out to about here, I would say.
And everything sweeps around the corner as well.
And then the rest of it wraps around the corner, right? There, like that, right?
Yeah.
But this wall here aligns with the wall below it, which aligns with the wall below that. So that lines up all the way down. And then this terrace here at the second floor is on top of that first floor commercial space.
Used by the residential.
Do you want me to go to the 3D view?
Yeah, I guess that would help. Yeah, oh, okay. So you're actually, that's again, the sort of slippage with a concrete wall.
This
Going all the way
all
up.
slides, yeah, right through that opening. And the stair is an autonomous form.
And that roof line above is
Right.
kept back from that. edge.
There's also a gap there, yes.
There's a gap at that end as well? Oh,
There's a
or
gap
setback.
between the sloped roof and the, or there still is a gap there, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah.
Good,
I don't know if this drawing was in our packet, so
Oh,
maybe it was, but then, no, I'm not sure it was.
I
Maybe
mean, the
very
drawing that
small.
I had printed was really, really dark.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It was hard to
that's,
see how things, related.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah. it's
In
on,
in a way,
402.
the relationship to the existing building there, uh, their own vertical, that side is the vertical for the neighboring building.
But we're not quite as high. We're probably
Mhm.
10 feet shorter.
Right.
Yeah.
And you pick that up again in your stairwell,
Right.
as a solid element.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask two questions? One is a follow-up on the planter back here. So you said it's about like 3 feet or so tall and
At the
planted
ground floor?
at the ground floor. And is there fencing or something for security, like, standard 6
Do we
feet or
have the
something?
bar fence there at the back of the opening? Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Is the same security concern, anybody can
Yeah,
jump a 3-foot
legitimate.
planter?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's no gate. There's no access.
Uh-huh. And the other question is, if you could go back to your diagrams about the car lift.
Uh-huh.
So I think it was the diagram number 1 where the red light turns on but from the street,
Actually, did we show it? No.
like on the street level itself.
Yeah.
Yep. So if we, I guess it's the step 2, from the street, like you have all the planting and the trees, is that light visible as you come down the street
That's the
before you
idea.
start
Yeah,
turning?
that's the idea, is that it would be something that you could see from either direction.
It's like a
But
bollard.
it's not high. Yeah, it's just
Bollard mounted
height,
light.
Bollard height.
Yeah, I was just trying to relate this to your overall site plan to try to understand like the visibility down the street. Because obviously you don't want people to start turning and then have to back
And then
up.
realize that it's on.
On that issue, how do you, you'll have some discussions between all of your tenants using that so that if it's red, they will be told, don't pull in. In other words,
Yeah, I mean, there's going to need to be some, protocols that are
Mhm.
reviewed with the residents. There's no guest parking,
no guess.
no guest parking required. And so it's only residents that would be going down into the garage.
And out of curiosity, just pure curiosity, are these units for sale or for rent?
They are condominiums.
Thank you. Board Member Balte has no questions. I don't believe anyone else has any further questions. So at this point, we will close the public portion of the meeting. If the ARB would like to have any internal discussion on this, anyone want to kick us off here? Thank you, Mr. Hayes also, and Mr. Hayes.
Squared, Mr. Hayes.
Hayes squared. See rebranding in your future. I'll kick us off. I think that this project is stunning. I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's really quite lovely. I think that the dynamics of the front facade and the panels, I think that huge benefit from increasing the spacing between the slats there. I think it really adds a lot more vitality and vibrance to the front facade of this building. I think the way that those panels slide back and forth, it's really going to feel like it's alive, right? This building's going to constantly be moving just from the people utilizing the spaces that they live in, which I think is quite interesting. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness to the car lift. I know that anytime we have something new in terms of technology, there's going to be some extra questions and we're going to see how it works, but I appreciate the fact that parking is provided. I know that a lot of the California rules and everything are writing that we do not need parking. I think that we live in a car-driven society, and to not provide parking for people who live in a unit is a little silly in my mind. So I sincerely appreciate the efforts you guys are taking to provide parkings for the tenants in your building. I appreciate the thoughtfulness of the trash compaction or the trash mobility, getting that out to the street. And I think that utilizing the car lift for that is quite clever. And I sincerely appreciate all of the thoughtfulness. We haven't even spoken to the landscape architect who I know is online right now. So I wanted to tip my hat to you as well. The landscaping on this has been quite lovely every step of the way, but I think that the steps you've taken since the last meeting to today are going to really increase the beauty of this property. So, well done. Thank you.
I follow. Again, just like Chair Rosenberg said, this is a really beautiful project and long time coming. So I hope past today, it moves really quickly. The renderings are beautiful. I hope as you move forward to execution of this design, all the thin canopy, the very thin roof at the top, those are maintained as you get into detailing of this lovely project and a really great addition to downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this project as well. So I think the circulation problem is really solved smartly, and also the materials selected are very carefully and high quality, and the massing itself, it showed the take lots of consideration to the neighboring, the adjacent buildings. I think everything, the massing itself, it's really well sorted. But my only concern is it seems like the building overall is too dark, especially it's next to the historic building, which is a light color, the cute little yellow house there. So I just feel the material, the color itself is kind of too dark, both for the concrete and the metal. So that's my only concern, and I would suggest you to consider some warmer and lighter color for this building, and maybe bring the wood siding not only on the top floor, but also bring some wood features to the lower level.
Well, I think that last was a very interesting comment, and tend to agree with it as well. The darker browns are awfully severely dark. I think you were arm twisted into putting darker colors on the building, or natural colors, which is a good direction, but that to live with it is a hardship there with the concentration of amount of dark materials is a bit excessive. So it would, I think, keep the nature of it, keep the nature of the building. You don't need to change anything really in materials and location of screenings versus concrete pieces and whatnot, or wall colors that are concrete in color, but the other colors are questionable in my mind as well. I think it's a terrific building. I think all of the kind of details of it are going to really be quite beautiful. I think it ends up being, as we had previously asked, respectful of the neighboring building as well. And we didn't bring it up this time because you've solved it. So it's a little strange to see that little piece of screening on the top floor behind the garden, but that's a nice idea. Again, if that were seen as a lighter material, I think it might be nicer for the neighbors to see that as well. And so that would carry through to the other part of that facade, which is also open that way. I think that's not looking at the elevation of it from that side, but there is a part that's down below that's also screened that way. So in planning, it's terrific. The apartments inside really work really well, and everything seems to be scaled quite well. I wondered whether or not in the master suite that there wouldn't be enough room there somewhere for sort of food storage room, but I don't think it really comes. But I was thinking about that and thinking that the open counter that you have there could easily have a lot of storage below. So that'll be the next phase of detail design, I'm sure. I love the project. anxious to see it built.
Like good wine, architecture is one of those professions where architects keep getting better as they get older. Can you hear me? We've been joking about that, but to me, just comparing this to your building next door, Ken, it's fabulous. I feel like I'm in a master class here on how to design in detail. I think all of us are seeing just a very strong answer to every question. And I can completely support this building the way it's presented. It's going to be a wonderful addition to the town. I will caution the owner that you need this architect involved throughout the construction. There's many details that, if not executed well, will make a big difference. The building next door did not do that, to their detriment and our detriment. I can fully support this project with pride. Thank you. Sure. I move that we recommend approval as presented.
And I second. Let's take a call for vote.
Board Member Adcock,
Yes.
Board Member Balte,
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch,
Yes, but I have a friendly amendment to add. But
Go ahead. Okay, well, then we'll have to recall
Yeah,
the,
no, I.
the votes then. Let's hear the friendly amendment first.
The friendly amendment first, let's
Okay,
just.
then we'll
take it that way.
revote.
So I recommend that you examine the darker wood elements and darker metal elements and perhaps bring them back to a committee separately. Whenever they can do that, and they can do that as soon as they come to an agreement.
If I may, it does seem, so we're gonna pause this vote for a minute. If I may, it does seem that 3 of the board members are sort of keen on it as presented. 2 of the board members are a little concerned about the darkness of it. As we all know, as working architects, there's moments where we have a material selected and then sort of, you'll choose between 2, right? And I would just say, would you guys be comfortable if the commentary was err on the side of the slightly lighter of the 2? Or would you guys actually want to see this back at an ad hoc meeting to fully understand the lightness and darkness of the materials? Because I don't want to hold this project up just because we have a slight difference of opinion on whether it's too dark or too light, when the majority does seem to be okay with it as presented. But I want to hear what you guys would like to see.
Well, I think that the project can continue. There's obviously a lot of more detailed work that will go into this
Right.
as it's submitted to the city, but that we would look, we wouldn't hold it up for purposes of holding up the whole project, but rather just a reevaluation of as Commissioner Chen mentioned, those particular colors.
Okay.
And through the chair,
Yes, please.
if I may, staff would strongly recommend that this be part of your recommendation, but to reduce the process that this would add, have it be something that the director would ensure occurred rather than an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
So that would be our strong recommendation.
I think I'd like to see us see the color changes.
Comment is that in the sunshine, that the colors will
Correct.
appear lighter.
Yeah, we did that yesterday.
Board Member Chen, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Well, yeah, actually for the street front elevation, it's actually facing north. So most of the time, maybe it's not under the sunshine or just under a certain time or under certain angles. So it may look even darker actually.
Okay, to the room at large, the conundrum we face is that it seems that everyone is more or less quite happy with the project. However, there's a slight discrepancy in the tonal quality of the materials. I do not want to see this project held up. However, we could try and come to a consensus as a board where everyone is happy with the process that moves forward. I did hear from city staff that they'd prefer to defer this to the director. ARB members would like to see it themselves. In theory, we could force the issue and say approve it as is and then by-step that, but we don't like to do that on this board. We like to be a cohesive, unified front. So I do want to make sure that we get to a consensus that people can be happy with.
Could I try to persuade board members Hirsch
Please?
and Yingxi that this is a masterful architect, one of the best we have in town. They've given this, and we're all admitting, enormous amount of thought. Why we wouldn't let them choose the color for their building is beyond my understanding. No more than you would tell Rembrandt the paintings are too dark. Let the architect design
No.
the building. They've got a great track record.
Rembrandt had another way of looking at paintings.
But
I
also
strongly think we should let them design the building. This is going to be good.
And I think to add to that, like the increase in spacing, the sample we're looking at right here, although it has like the wood material on it, that spacing really like lets light and makes it quite airy. And given that those are sliding panels, which probably will be open a lot of times, then, the rendering on the cover page is probably way darker than in reality, just because when you show it in a small image, that's, in all our practice, that always happens when you look at a small image, then it gets darker, especially when you use darker tones, I think. But based on the spacing and the fact that these are movable panels that will open up, I think the design is beautiful. It'll be light and airy, and the dark materials are actually, like with the contrast with the concrete, is a really beautiful composition. I wouldn't really, like Peter said, I wouldn't really want to, be messing with, is it a shade lighter of bronze? I think that's for the architects to make their call. Thank you.
Could we recommend that the architect consider lighter colors and leave it to them and leave it to staff to allow them to choose it instead of having it come back to us? That way we make our input on it, but let them.
Yeah.
let them
Yeah,
make-
I'm fine with this. And I think this is an architect that we can trust, and they have tons of experience, and we can trust their profession.
I think that from our standpoint, I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover still as this gets developed. We're going to be requesting actual concrete samples and that sort of thing. And so when we get those, if we need to, modify the darkness or of the metal, we'll do what we think needs to be done at that time. I think when we have physical samples.
Mr. Hayes, thank you for your input. I would echo Board Member Balte's sentiments that, again, this is a well-known, well-respected, well-trusted architect who's shown time and again that he is highly competent in material selections. And while I think us making the statement that, caution to being too dark, I think that may be all that is needed here. My 2 cents on that. Could we persuade you that way?
Sure, you can persuade me.
Yeah.
Yeah. you're okay.
Persuaded? All right.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you for the brief pause while we had that discussion. Back to your motion. Anything you'd like to
Well, the
rephrase?
motion has tacked onto it then that we would like the architect to consider a lighter color at their discretion.
At their
As
discretion.
reviewed by staff.
Seconded. Call the vote.
Board Member Adcock,
Yes.
Board Member Balte,
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch,
Yes,
Vice Chair Chen,
Yes,
Chair Rosenberg.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
After many, many years, thank you guys very much for your patience and perseverance. Well done to the architect, to the landscape architect, to the client. Congratulations. We'll move this one forward. Can't wait to see it built. Okay. Moving on to action item number 3. We have a discussion on criteria for the Architectural Review Board Design Awards, recognizing built projects from 2020 to 2024. I'm going to look at Stephen now.
Right, good morning still. Let me share my
plenty of
screen
time.
here.
And we are good on time, so unless anyone needs a quick pause for 2 minutes. Actually, would you mind if we just did a quick 2-minute pause to get some coffee, things like that, just before we jump back in? All right, we're going to take a quick 2-minute pause. 2-minute pause while we shuffle over, and then we'll dive back into the ARB awards. Thank you, guys. All right, I think we are right at 9:50 here on the nose. Thank you guys for your patience while we refreshed our coffee cups. We're waiting for board member Adcock. My apologies. Just one more minute. While I am stalling, I did want to give a special thank you to Stephen, who diligently sat with me and we tried to divvy up these projects by geography. And woof, that was a little bit longer of a meeting than I anticipated it being. So worked out well, and hats off to you for getting these all together. Board Member Adcock, thank you. Okay, so we'll dive back into the design review, excuse me, ARB design awards, and Stephen, take it away. Thank you.
All right, hopefully everyone's refreshed after the break. Good morning, and let's jump right in. So as the chair had mentioned, since our last meeting, the project list has been narrowed down a little bit from the 79 previous projects to 64 projects that were presented in the packet, as well as what was assigned to each of the board members, ranging from 12 to 13 projects. The recommendation for today's item would be to discuss the timeline, discuss the number of the awards out of those shorter lists that each of the board members received, as well as some of the evaluation criteria and process that you guys worked through. Just a recap of that December 19th, 2024 meeting, the majority of the board did express that they wanted to award, say, five awards. And as noted, the project list was narrowed down to 64 projects, and each of the board members received a shorter list of 12 to 13 with the intent to review and report back at this discussion. And those were divided up in a somewhat logical manner to of the city in five geographical areas.
Yeah, we did our best to try and make it easy for people to, once they hit their area, they could do that. I did take the two that were often to no man's land. And I admit I have not gotten to those two yet. I've done the other ones, but those two outliers I have not visited yet. So yeah. So how would you like to start this off?
So I think just some next steps here. I have 3 items. Perhaps we can address at least 2 of those 3. One would be to narrow down the project list. So hopefully at least all of you have reviewed to some degree of those 12 to 13 projects, and you can report back either a shorter list or perhaps bring forward some of those projects that you wish to feel, say, deserved award. And from that, I think this second item might be, it could possibly be addressed today, but perhaps at another discussion, is to actually select the 5 projects. And the third would probably be of interest today, which would be to select the date of the award. So of course we can, continue that to another discussion, but I think establishing a date for the awards and working back from that would be helpful, not only for the board, but also for staff on organizing those efforts behind the scenes. So.
Excellent. Okay. I'd say, yeah, let's start that then. We'll dive right in. On a similar note to that, and the reason that I keep asking about this to the staff, we have ARB elections and turnover. So will be the changing of the guard. And I believe that happens in April.
Correct.
Okay. And so part of the reason that I want to make sure that we're all aware of that is that I would like to look at my board members and say, would we like this awards ceremony to happen before or after the changing of the guard? And there's a part of me that thinks trying to get it in before is going to be a little tough. So I'm sort of inclined to say that this award would be much more likely to happen in May, possibly even June. And so it would be after the changing of the guard. So just to keep that in mind, though. So we will have those on the agenda as well in the upcoming few months. So.
And if I may, there is in some of our internal meetings for agenda forecasting, it appears that there will be some availability at future ARB hearings to have this discussion come back. So it would be a fast turnaround, but we could potentially have that move forward before the changing of the guards. It could be an ask, but just wanted to give that context of some potential agenda placement of this, a third discussion, if you will.
Appreciate that.
And on that, I did only receive photos from Board Member Balte.
He's a gold star for his homework.
Yeah. So thank you for sending over some 3 projects. So it appears your list has been dwindled down, and I've included those in the presentation today. So with that, we can perhaps jump through those 3 projects that Board Member Balte had.
If we could, I'd like to first back up for a second and understand what the criteria is, which projects are potentially eligible. My understanding was it's over the past 5 years, projects the ARB has reviewed, but does the project have to be complete?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
complete.
And okay, I'm asking that because I noticed 2 projects in the downtown area, since I seem to be assigned that district, that I didn't see on the list that I think, if memory serves, were not complete at the last cycle, but are now complete. And we are missing those. And then I noticed on my list, a number of projects are either under construction or never seem to have materialized. So I don't know if we need to go through all of that, but it leaves me wondering how carefully we've created our list of applicants to begin with. When I found 2 out of 10, I think we missed. And on the same list, 1, 2, 3 are actually actively under construction. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, 5 of them, I don't think anything has ever been done. So I'm wondering if we really want to be careful that we have a comprehensive list before we dive into the details on it.
Yeah.
So I guess I address that to staff and the chair, but I'm concerned.
No, that's a very valid point. And one of the things that we had talked about in our meeting on Tuesday was, again, Vice Chair Yingxi, Vice Chair Chen, excuse me, brought up the question of completion, right? And sort of our commentary was, as long as it's sort of substantially complete, if they're putting in the last of the trees on landscaping, that's complete enough. We can see the building, we can see the structure, we can see what it is. But you're right, anything under construction is not a viable candidate because it's not complete. So that would be a question. And I guess to punt it back to staff for a moment, the question would be, obviously you guys can't follow up on every single project and where they are at completion and things like that. How many of these and how, I guess, we are trying to find the ones that were between 2020 and 2024 / 2025. I guess the question is really, if something is taking a lot longer, does it get rolled or did it just sort of miss its window?
Great question. So let's see here. So as for the first item that Board Member Balte had brought up, so the items that were included of the 79 projects was a list of all of the projects that had gone before the Architectural Review Board, whether that would be, say, a major project, a minor, what have you. So the items that were at the tail end of that list were detailed in gray. And I believe that was around 13 or 12 or so projects that were carried over from the previous award year list. So those were the projects that had either for what was detailed in the staff report been completed or under construction. So those projects, based on the previous organization of the list, did not have a planning entitlement number attached to them. So perhaps some of the, changing of the guard, if you will, of organizing this list may not have readily identified those projects. Addressing the second item that was brought up, I might defer to the interim manager here of current plan to chime in.
If I might ask a question, is it possible that these projects were just not reviewed by ARB, or because they were in downtown, we know for certain they were reviewed by ARB, right? Because there's many beautiful projects in Palo Alto that happen that don't necessarily need to come to ARB. So that would be sort of my second question.
Well, one of the projects I'm referencing is 429 University, which was enormously controversial and took a long time to get built. And you might argue it's not complete, but the building is built. It ought to be on our list as a consideration. It was not on our list last time because it wasn't complete. It had been entitled 10 years ago now. It's been around, You know what I'm talking about, Claire. Okay, but the fact that it slipped past us is concerning. The other one, I think the address is 488 Webster, but it's a very nice apartment building on the corner of Webster and Hamilton, I think. I have a photo of it here. Maybe you could pull it up even. It's one of the photos I sent you. And again, I believe it was just not quite complete when we were looking at it last time. But again, it's a good work of architecture and should be on our list as a consideration.
Yeah, if I may, Chair, is there, from the previous awards, was there a list of projects? Because what I was marking on my list is not complete now, but
Remember this one?
potentially eligible for the next round. Was there a list like that created?
Yes, that's
previously?
exactly what Stephen had sort of been commenting on, is that in the original package that was online, there were some that were grayed out. So in our original list, and it's hard to see in the black and white
Right, yeah,
printouts
that's
here.
what I was trying to figure out what this.
Right.
It's gray on gray.
And so the original ones that were grayed out were the ones that are rollover. Oftentimes, not always, it's not 100%. When the permit number is like empty, that's one of the ones that was rolled over. So there's several on my list. I think everybody else sort of got one or two. I think Peter had the next to most with 3. But we did sort of shuffle most of those onto my plate to just, keep an eye on where they are. And a lot of them were on El Camino, so geographically it worked as well. So if you do have any that you're like, this should be considered for next year, I would advise marking it, passing that back to staff. And then, because again, this award ceremony happens every 5 years, and some ARB members only serve 3-year terms. So there are some ARB members who never experience a design award. I feel lucky enough to have this be our second, because the way that it was last time post-COVID, it was relatively recent enough. So I do actually remember going through that with previous board members as well. So I'd advise, just if you have something that's not complete, but you think it's well worth keeping an eye on, mark it. We'll send it back to staff and keep it in the works for next time. We'll just keep rolling documents of that.
Okay, thank you. And I guess another question about the level of completion, because when I visited one of the projects, looks like they're doing landscaping, but a lot of projects, they do exterior and then the interior follows, right? So how do we figure out
That's
almost complete?
That's a good question. And I would say, I would sort of say that the Architectural Review Board is tasked predominantly with the exterior of the building, right? We don't necessarily go in and tour, multifamily residences, right? So while we're looking at plans and things like that, we are reviewing cohesiveness, we are reviewing path of travel, things like that. I think that for the design awards, I would be inclined, and I would love to hear the board members' comments on this, I would be inclined to say that the exterior is probably more critical than the interior. And I think that, we are all professionals in this field, and if you can say this feels substantially complete to the point where you feel you can understand the project, that's good enough for me. We trust your opinion on that. So if it's substantially complete would be my way of saying that, and there is some interpretation along that lines.
So my follow-up question is whether, if in that case, shall we contact the applicant or maybe architect, whether they're willing to be included in this year? Because in one of my projects, it's also under construction, but the exterior is, I think it's almost done, but they're doing the interior works. And then the construction trucks are all parking outside. So for this award, I know we require to have some beautiful photographs for each of the project, right? So
yeah, I would say that last award ceremony, let me put this out there, as last award ceremony, everything was done, right? So I think that if it's still actively ongoing, we roll it. And what I mean by substantial completion is again, open to your professional interpretation, but I think we all kind of can see a point where you're like, oh, this is actively, there's still people running in and out. None of the landscaping's done. We really don't know what this building actually looks like complete. So I'd say err on the side of caution and roll it if it looks like it's still actively pretty notably under construction.
And through the chair.
Please.
So completion, at least from a technical term, on our side would be, say, a final inspection of the project. So that would be a clean line, if you will, that could be established. So the bylaws do offer in some ways vague language saying completed. What exactly is completed, that's not defined. So if we want to, ascribe, say, a definition to that, final inspection could be a clean line that we could move forward with.
I
You know,
agree
in
with
response to that, you know, final inspections sometimes are really
Gets delayed.
very quite petty and very minor
Yeah.
in nature.
Yes,
So,
and that's true, but this
temporary
is the line
occupancy.
that has been used in the past to say which projects are included this time. But as we were discussing, we do intend to then carry those over to the next group.
Yeah.
So the hope is definitely to not have anybody fall through the cracks. But you could get into a situation where it's, okay, well, why are we including this one and not that one?
Right.
And so the final inspection does provide a clear line that's consistent with past practice.
So then I would go back, unfortunately, to Peter's initial commentary is that if we have items on our list that have not passed final inspection, they should not be included on the list. So we might need to have a revisit of this list with whoever, and it was prepared in the first place to nix
If I
things
could,
out of
if
the
I
gate.
could take exception though.
Please.
Awards are given by juries. Juries
Mm-hmm.
exercise a lot of subjective judgment. One of them ought to be whether a building is complete. Let the architects on the jury call that one. For example, 429 University, I believe, has not passed final inspection. The owner's in a lawsuit with the electrician. There's a
Okay,
big
yeah,
fight going on.
okay.
The
got
building,
it.
the building is complete. It's been complete for years.
Yeah.
The architects on the board can easily see that and can judge the quality of the architecture. We don't need, what's in the bylaws is perfectly correct, just complete. That's all we need to say. Let the jury do their job of judging.
I would agree with that, and also take it a big step back. This is an award ceremony, right? It's, no one's entitled to this. No one has owed anything here. This is something that's our way at the Architectural Review Board and as the city of Palo Alto to say, we value and appreciate the exceptional architecture that's being done in the city. So, yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that, Peter. Thank
one-
you.
yeah, I wholeheartedly
Go
agree
ahead.
as well. And I think that, you know, you're going to find out perhaps that some project that was 5 years ago that was really complete is going to almost look like it's out of touch with everything else that's just finished.
I think that is, I agree for most part, but it's also like, for instance, just by using examples, the Mercedes-Benz project looks pretty close to complete.
Close.
Probably interiors are pretty close to complete. There are cones, there are construction vehicles, there are, you know, landscaping going on. So I would assume in the next few months it'll be complete. The other one on my list, which is the Embarcadero House, the Summerhill Homes. 2585, I think. Oh no, the Bayshore one, 2850 Bayshore. It is under construction. They're building the sound wall, like from the Bayshore side. It looks like, you know, towards the later half, close to completion. But it's a pretty large property. Obviously, I'm not going to drive into their construction site. The level of completion on the overall project, I can't really.
This is the one that's cutting into the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not complete. I was down there a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
climbing
Whereas the
around.
houses
Exactly.
on the
It's far
street
from
level.
complete.
Peter.
Yeah, houses from the Bayshore looks much more complete, but I don't know. I haven't been from the park side to see. So do we walk around? Do we contact the
Well,
current,
I
like,
was-
you know,
I was in the-
applicant?
I was in the park.
Yeah,
I
I wasn't
play
at the
soccer
park,
in
so
the
that's,
park, so that's
yeah.
where
No, there's a major amount
And
of
it's quite
landscaping.
clear that it's got a long way to go before.
Okay.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
true.
Before
Whereas I drive
before I
that
could judge
almost
there.
every other day, and from Bayshore side, it's like, looks pretty fast towards completion, right? But it's probably the block on the highway side versus towards the
Right.
park.
And it has a big landscaped area that was.
And yeah, towards the park,
significant
yeah,
towards the park.
exactly. So,
Now there's a part of me that, not intending to be snarky, I apologize if it comes out this way. Is this one of the items that you would put on your short list to begin with? Because if it's not, then move along, right? So if it's one of those that the previous awards were 5 awards, basically 1 per year for the 5 years, right? And if you think that this really is one of the top 5 awards out of this list of 68, then let's continue the discussion and see where we're at. If you think it's just not there, then let's let it go. But if you think it is a viable contender, then yes, absolutely, we should continue this.
so that's a two-sided question.
Yes.
One is like, off the 12 on my list, 7 or 8 of them haven't even started construction.
Okay.
Right? So if I were to look at, say, my list and say, well, there are probably 3 contenders, times 5, 15. In that case, this is potentially a
Fair point.
30% chance, right?
Okay.
Versus if we're talking 25 projects, Then I would say like, I would want to look at, I haven't like really delved into the design of that project because it was before my time.
Mhm.
That so the first criteria is what level of complete, and therefore, do I spend the time reviewing all the project application to see if it's eligible? So I'm not at
Understood,
a point
okay.
to say it's eligible or not.
Understood.
So sort of to add to, to that aspect of it, I have the shopping center
Yes,
and there've been a lot of stuff always happens on the shopping center.
and they happen fast too, so I would be
And they happen
surprised if any
fast,
of yours
right.
are not built.
Well, I was looking for Aarhus. you
Our
know,
house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I've
it's
been-
done. I was in there just like a week ago.
You were? Good client. You have a very good client.
Just for looking. I'm
So
not
Pete-
that.
So we've discussed the fact that I couldn't find it. I don't know if you've done any more research to see if you could.
It
find
is there. It's where the Art House is the American Girl former
American
building.
Girl,
Yeah.
former American Girl.
Yeah, and so it's on the back side, towards the Sand Hill Road.
No, I know where it is.
Yeah.
But it isn't on my list. I don't. think.
Oh, it's not on your list.
So I've
Okay,
asked Peter.
Got it. I kept thinking you couldn't find it.
We would have to
Understood.
check if that one is done. I don't know if you guys have been out to Stanford Shopping Center. I know the building permit's been issued for that one. I don't.
I was
Oh,
literally
it's-
there a
it's
week ago.
done.
It's gorgeous.
It is,
Right,
okay.
It's
beautifully
done, occupied.
Yep.
This is our house?
Our
Yeah,
house.
ARHAUS.
And
I think
board
it's-
member,
I think it's HUS, by the way. Yeah.
It's.
Did you pick it? Did you find it?
yes.
Stephen?
Yeah. So board member Hirsch, it is the last item on your list. And if you look through the work description,
there it
it
Oh,
does
yes,
mention
yes, yes.
our house.
There it is.
So-
There it is. Okay, fine, fine. So it's in. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, that's good. It's good to bring that
Somehow-
up and make sure.
Okay, so no, it's particularly interesting, the shopping center, of course, because they spent a lot of money on those buildings. And so this raises a kind of an issue that I'm wondering about, but we'll get to it eventually, I guess, as to which ones are we going to prioritize, or would there only be two commercial projects? And then there'll be project types. Are we going to try to mix it up? Because I think there are legitimately maybe two projects in the shopping center that are likely.
Yeah, and I think that is part of the discussion that we're to be had here is that, we have these massive lists, we're taking it down and dividing up for divide and conquer. And then as board member Adcock was saying, half of hers aren't even viable to begin with because they're not constructed, they haven't started, as board member Balte had mentioned as well. So you've already narrowed down the list, right? And then of those that are sort of possible contenders because they are at a significant portion of completion, that they are worth looking at, I guess would be a way to say it. So it is up to the board members to narrow it down. We fully expected that some board member may come back and say, there's nothing on my list. And then there might be a board member coming back saying, I've still got 7 and I can't narrow it down because they're all good. Right. And so at that point, when we have this sort of like quote unquote short list, right, then we can look at them and say, okay, how many of them are commercial? How many of them are residential? How many of them are alternate or mixed use, things like that. And then we can decide as a board, how many do we want to divide by the best of the commercial, by the best of the residential, or do we just want to be able to say, we just really think these were outstanding and this is how many commercial we happen to have this award ceremony round. So that's something that we do get to decide, but I think that unfortunately we need to have these short lists sort of aligned first. And then once we understand how many we have on our short list, then we can narrow that down a bit. So I do feel like that is step 2. And step 1 would be just narrowing it down in the first place. So on that note, has everyone pretty much visited most of the items on their list? Yes. Okay. So what I would request for the next time we discuss this, and we'll get to when exactly that is shortly. But I would request that everyone sort of follows, if we don't mind, in board member Balte's suit, where you choose the ones that you think are viable in your mind, take a photograph or download from online, and we'll put together a short list and we'll sort of present to each other to see what we're looking at and see how many we have, because we may have 7, we may have 27. And so in order to sort of narrow down from that short list, I think that we would need photos. We would need to sort of spend some time reviewing those together as a group and see how we feel about it.
Today, can we like at least get a count from everyone of how many on their list are complete
Absolutely.
and potentially eligible?
Absolutely.
If I could suggest, if we had staff pull up this list, it's an editable list, right? Word document or something.
Mhm.
And then each of us go through the ones in our area. And you can very quickly eliminate them and just explain to our colleagues if there's any doubt. But at least if we get that list comprehensive, that's the first critical step.
Yes,
If you'd like, I can go first and show you what I'm thinking on. But
please.
Stephen, if you could pull up the list with the downtown ones.
Bear with me while I do that.
And if everybody just rides along with me, the first one is the animal hospital over on Alma Street, and that was not reviewed by us directly. It's not a large enough project, I think, to include on the list. I'm just going to keep going through unless somebody speaks up. The second one is Castilleja, that's still under construction. The third one, Nobu, should be on the list. That's 620 Emerson. I'm going fast, Stephen, so I'll wait for you for a second.
Okay. I am
Staff,
sharing
you
my
two, you-
screen as we speak.
So you mentioned one to add to the list, it sounded like.
Yeah, so item number 3, I think we should strike. That shouldn't be on our list. Then same with number 4, rows 3 and 4 in your Excel.
Okay.
So maybe take
So-
the shading off of those, just get rid of the fill or something.
Okay.
Okay. Nobu Restaurant should be on the list. 486 Hamilton, I have no idea what that is. But
So 486 was one of those projects carried over from the previous list. I can coordinate with for the next discussion and provide more detail on
well,
exactly what that
I think you
project
should
is.
take it off the list for now. There's nothing there. I mean, I drove by, it's just. 285 Hamilton, isn't that the development center building and the rooftop garden, which certainly nothing you can see. Again, take it off the list. 656 Lytton, that's the senior Lytton Gardens senior home that I don't think should be on the list because there's really hardly anything visible. What we reviewed was just driveway layout and air conditioning equipment.
Great. Take it off.
But unless somebody says otherwise, take it off, please. 555 Middlefield should be on the list. That's a Randy Pop one that you were just showing the photo of. 300 Pasteur, that's the hospital. That would be on the list if it's complete. I don't know if it's complete. I haven't been over there, but assume it is. Leave it on the list, please. 252 Ramona is one of those where there's nothing ever been done there. I don't know why it's on the list, but take it off, please. 240 University Avenue, the same thing there. That's the Jewel Hair Salon. And there's nothing done there. So maybe they applied for a sign permit or something, but take it off the list, please. And then 488 University. That's the hotel project.
President Hotel, yeah.
I don't think there's anything of architectural review on that. All we reviewed was the signage in front, and that was a question with the historic folks. But if somebody feels it should be on the list, speak up now. Otherwise, take it off the list.
Is it a really elegant sign?
It went through
Yeah.
the Historic Resources Board for the minor modifications that were done to the exterior. It was mostly interior work and design.
I don't believe it belongs on our list. 160 Waverly is actively under construction. 436 Waverly, I don't understand why that's on the list. Both of those should be removed. There's nothing going at 436. And then I would like to add to the list 588 Webster and 429 University. Make sure those are both getting the green fill, so we remember that those are being added, please.
If I may interject in terms of the projects that you crossed out, I think a couple of them were under construction, so would we tag them as potential for future?
Well, not we, they should do
Okay.
that, yeah. Of course.
Yes,
So I just want to
as
make sure as we're going through this, we all have maybe a lighter color or something for we're
Yes.
not losing track of those.
as mentioned in the staff report, anything that appeared on this would be carried over to the next award discussion. So
So that's 5 projects in the downtown district that I think are potentially eligible. So if we do the same thing now for all these districts, we might get a list that you could then sort in a way that we could start to think about.
All right. Do I have any other board members that would like to go through their list?
Yeah, I'm happy to go through mine as well.
All right.
Okay. 4260 El Camino, it's just an empty lot.
And that's 4260, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
3945.
No, it's not.
Just click on the
Excuse me,
5.
it's not letting me select it, so.
Just click on the 5.
Click on the side.
There you
Yeah,
go.
All right. All right.
Okay. 3945, same thing. And just other ones, I'm going to go through them and just remove them for a variety of reasons. 3980, remove, please.
All right.
3705, remove. 3585, 3265, and 3159.
Was Wilton Court considered in the last round? It was a completed project.
It is completed.
Yes.
I have other opinions for,
Win
wait,
an award?
Yeah, Wilton Court.
Wilton Court won an award last time?
No,
Oh.
no, but
Okay.
it
It is completed,
It is completed now.
but I
And
have opinions, so.
It was one of the projects that was carried over from
Yes.
the previous list. So,
Definitely should be just part of our
So that should be left
left
highlighted in blue, right?
Well, the question is if we think that it's worth putting forward, and based on some of the other ones that I've seen, I mean, are we putting the short list of everything that's potentially viable? If I make a decision that I don't think it's
No, it
worth
should be
putting
things that are
forward?
just viable.
Okay, so then keep it blue for now?
Yeah, that should definitely be on
Okay.
the list.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then I have not gotten to the 2 Los Tricos ones yet, so I will be doing that shortly. But I just, those are unknown at this time. And then in terms of what I think should be top of the list, if we're doing that now or not, I think that the mortuary building at 695 Arastradero and the mixed use at 3877, those are the 2 that are sort of shining stars in my mind. So,
Could you go down to the bottom, the Los Troncos Road to 575?
Mhm. And I just haven't been there yet, so I don't know if they're built or not or anything, so.
I mean, both of these, I would question if they're the kind of projects that were fitting into our awards program.
Mhm.
The 575, wasn't that the house with
These are
enormous
single
abut-
family residences that are really not visible from the street at all, so.
The only reason we reviewed that was because of the.
They're site and design projects, so any OS district project comes to the board, that's why they showed up, but they're really not visible at all.
I would be hard pressed evaluating those in the context of all the other buildings from an architectural point of view. They're the only single family residential, and so
Yeah.
I don't think they belong on our list.
Well, we did have quite a bit of back and forth discussion on that as well with staff saying, should we be reviewing single family homes, right? Because it's not something that ARB typically does, but they are worthwhile architecture in the city. And then last award ceremony, we did have a single family residence, I believe it was on Forest, but I think how we handled that was we put it as an honorable mention.
No,
as
that
opposed
was,
to-
that's a multiple dwelling.
The one on Forest?
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's a multiple.
That was the
I
Dave's
thought we had a
Only
single
project.
family.
Yeah, that was
Okay,
multiple.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it is a discussion. If we think that just single family homes are not necessarily typically within our purview,
Well,
we should strike them just out of the
Maybe
gate.
another way
That's
to
fine.
think of it is we didn't really evaluate the architectural merits of the single family home design. We were focused on the site impact.
Okay.
Clearance to a creek and what setback they would have to have. And we were just advising council really on that large scale environmental issue.
Okay,
And I don't think that type of advice is worthy of giving an award to.
okay, fair enough.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Does anyone else disagree? Okay, then that's where we're at today. Okay, and if anything comes up, we'll let you know.
Whoa,
that this
whoa,
is- No, I mean, not, I'm
Oh,
just
we're not
wrapping up
finished.
myself and just myself
okay,
passing
okay.
along, passing the baton here. No,
Good,
we got
good.
plenty
Let
of
me
other
be sure I
people.
understand. This is the strip, the El Camino, any projects along El Camino?
More or less, but once we get to that Page Mill El Camino intersection, that actually fell under a different lump. That was for Yingshi to tackle. However, we did have some overlap, but we tried our best geographically too.
So, I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
digging deep in my memory here,
Please.
but there's that hotel next to Redwood condominiums.
It's empty lot.
Was
The
never
one that's
built?
painted all red.
It came forward, but it was never developed.
Never developed.
It's just
They
a
never
big
built it.
empty
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
After all
no,
that,
no,
they
it's
never built
still,
it.
still the
Still an
same.
empty lot.
Yeah, and no, it's not an empty lot.
It-
The
There's
one
a-
next to the red building?
I can't remember if it's empty right now,
Sorry, I
but there
looked
are
it up.
other considerations being proposed, but their entitlement expired and they never constructed. And so
Right.
there are other considerations
No,
going
it's
on
just
for
the
that site.
project we reviewed is not constructed, period.
Mhm.
Next up.
So, I had the.
David, you want to go?
Yeah.
Just going back to your list, Chair Rosenberg, so the 6 that are left are basically complete and for future discussion for eligibility, right? Not,
Correct. And
uh,
I did highlight the two that I sort of have a strong opinion on in the positive.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
So I'm only dealing here with the ones that are in the shopping center because I frankly
Mhm.
didn't look at any of the ones of the darker marked ones. If somebody could look down that list and determine that there, any one of those should be looked at, let me know now, if you would. But to start with Clark Way, that's the only one that isn't 180 El Camino Real. Was just I don't know if Peter would remember that one, but there's some rear issues with the creek.
It's an environmental thing that we were advising on,
Yes,
but it's not an
nothing-
architectural.
Yeah,
matter.
Not
there's
on-
no
Should-
architecture.
not on-
Shouldn't be on the list.
Shouldn't be on the list, right? Exactly. So then going down, I'm not sure if Occitane facade, the number 2 at 180, the first one on 180, I'm not sure if anything was really done there. I keep looking at it and saying, I remember we did something on it, but I don't remember what exactly we did. So it would, I
So
think,
it's
end
not
up
the-
being so
the-
minor
I think that
anyhow.
was the bright yellow and
Yeah,
blue color change.
something like that.
But leave
yeah.
it on let us judge that one, David. It was something done.
I'm not sure it was.
You don't think it was? No,
I
they
don't
did.
think
They-
anything really changed ultimately. Do
I
you
think we
have?
might need to look at the documents, what was presented and what it looks like today. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of research for you, but
Okay.
because
Oh,
yeah, if it happened 5 years ago, it might not look updated recently.
Well, it's possible, but
Yeah.
I don't think anything was done to it, but anyhow. So the next one is construction of, I'm not sure where I am in here. What is it? I'm not sure what it is, but demolition of existing, it's the Macy's demolition, right?
I believe
Number 3
so.
on
We
that
can
list?
Search. I can do a search for it to figure out, but I think it was the Macy's.
Yeah, just for future commentary to staff, I think that when we're dealing with these Stanford Shopping Center items, it's super helpful to have what the store name is right out of the gate. So like Peloton, got it. L'Occitane, got it. Like the Aloe, got it, right? So I
Right.
think that being sort of the first item out of the description is super
Right.
helpful.
That it does help. And I made a mistake that it was our house is listed here. And it's not our house, it's our hus. H-U-S. So minor review application allow exterior modification changes to plaster metal. That's number 4 on my list. I don't think anything much is part of that description anyhow, so I can't exactly recall what it was, but I don't think it's necessary. So on the next one is restoration. So that's definitely part of the list. Next one is Wilkes Bar, which I think is finished now. So this is when, you look to the titles and that's fine. Peloton, I don't think there's much done there. It's a smaller store. But this list includes a lot of big buildings that are significant. So continuing Yoga facility, similarly, small amount of,
If I may, just for clarification here, so you are listing the ones that you would like to be considered, or?
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I can keep them on in case somebody thinks there's something there that's worth talking about. I know, for example, we spent a lot of time on Brilliant Earth, and it's very, very simple little piece of work there, but we significantly had detail on that one. Sushi Roku, yes, I think it's going to stay. The melt, I don't think it's really significant enough to keep it because all it was is some graphic changes, some window modifications. And
It was relatively recent as well, but I don't, in the shopping center, it may already be done. I have no idea.
yeah,
If I
no,
may,
oh, it's
if we're
not,
just
yeah,
looking
I'm
at-
not sure it's done, actually. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so. I didn't look recently, but the last time I looked, it really, nothing was done there. Do you have anything, Stephen, about that that's significant?
So just for a little bit of organization here, so I think the two items to consider would be the completeness and whether it would be for, viable or you think would be
Mhm.
deserving of an award. So
I
just,
would eliminate the melt anyhow.
okay. Is there any opposition against that? Okay.
My question would be, do you have any, David, that you'd like to highlight as well? So as I put two of mine in bold, is there anything that you'd like to say, special attention towards?
Well, I think that, we all like the ultimate Aarhus design, Restoration, I think there was a lot of work on it, whether we want to be awarding something that's more or less traditional kind of building like that versus something like, well, another one was, sorry,
This is through the chair.
like Brilliant
terms-
Earth, which was just a pretty little piece of work in the corner out of the way, but it's significant in terms of the design. And we were very detailed in our description of how it should be put together.
Just to clarify, what we're doing today is shortlisting what's complete and what at a future time we'll discuss
Yes,
and as a group vote on whether
Yes.
they're eligible or if they are worthy of award or not, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, it's mostly short list of viability. The reason that I'm asking for some of the emphasis,
Mhm.
if you have it, and
Right.
again, it may be that there is none on your list for now, but for example, I think this personally, I think Sushi Roku was quite lovely, right? So I think that
Yes.
that's one that maybe we go
Yes.
back and get additional photos of or something like that.
oh, for sure.
And just making sure it's not stricken from the list now for some reason or another.
Correct, and that-
But again, it's not to say that. I think that because some of the short lists, like for example, in David's list, most of his are still on it, right? So
Mhm.
to sort of try and emphasize his next phase of work would be, okay, what are the ones that we want to spend a little bit more time and attention on? And if he comes back and says, oh, no, this one really needs attention too, great, right? If he's pushing for Brilliant Earth, great, let him research Brilliant Earth a little bit more, come back, maybe sort of make an argument for it to the group. And then we can sort of shortlist from there. It's sort of saying what's viable, saying what might need a little bit extra attention, and then the next meeting would be, okay, how do we actually narrow this down? Does that make sense?
So I would
It's
pick
sort
out, I've picked out three that I would say would probably, might be four. Might be Restoration, might be Wilkes-Barre.
Mm.
We spent a lot of time on Wilkes-Barre. Might be Sushi Roku and the last one, Aarhus.
Could you clarify for me if you could go higher in the list, Stephen, which are XL row number 5 is that one there?
Yeah, that's building E.
What is that project or what was it?
It was the construction of building E or modifications to building EE, I believe, but I'm not sure.
I think there are two stores at the end of the street there.
Is that the one that had the paseo between the
It's between-
buildings?
Yes. It's where there was an all-new connection through, and Restoration is on one
Right.
side and those two new
And the
stores,
same thing-
and they're
Yeah.
not done.
The same
Okay.
applies to number 7. And I know that all this was tied into doing Restoration Hardware, but which of these applications is to Restoration Hardware building?
Mhm.
Give me a moment.
I think that's what we really should be
Yeah,
doing. is
Yes.
yeah.
Pegging.
23
building.
PLN 00155 was the restoration hardware. So that one was restoration hardware, yeah.
0155 is the new building?
Yes.
Okay. So I wonder if the one above it and below it really belong on this list. If it was Stanford Shopping Center just revising the infrastructure behind all these facades, that doesn't really warrant consideration of architectural merit. But maybe before taking it off, we should research what is it that was done.
Yeah, we can look into it a
If you
little
could
bit
somehow
further.
highlight numbers 5 and 7, rows 5 and 7. It's
Light yellow?
question mark. What is there?
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? Building, okay, so building EE. Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out. I think building EE did include, one of those might have been just a modification to, because restoration hardware came back with like a minor board level for modifications, I think, so.
Which one is restoration? I think I've mixed it up because I think the 5th on the list there is really not restoration.
I think that's part of the question that we're going over is that,
Yeah, right now.
you know, to target restoration hardware and not necessarily the division of buildings, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
I think we'll have to look into those a little bit
Okay.
further and we can come back. in
Yeah,
the
that's
next
fine.
round.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
no,
we'll circle
that's
back to
fine.
that.
So Stephen, then, you know, to sort of make sure I know which one is restoration. If you have when you have a chance.
Sorry, we're having some trouble with the microphones here. So
Oh, it might be because we have so many on up here. I'll turn mine off.
as you were saying, Board Member Hirsch,
Yes, which one is restoration?
so that would be, let's see here. So that would be 23 PLN 00155. So that would be the second column, permit number or third, since the
But I
address
believe-
is divided by 2.
If I may, that I believe that was when they came back for some minor modifications.
Correct.
The original building construction is, and I'm just guessing, is the 5th one down. The, where the end of the sentence says, you know, approximate 28,000 square
Exactly.
foot. new
That's what
building.
I think is correct. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, but which one is that? For my sake? What
There
number
are
down?
2 in a row that are both restoration hardware. The one that's on the screen that's in bold and the one right below it,
Oh, okay,
because it had to come back for modifications.
okay.
So there's a 2019 permit number,
Uh-huh.
19 PLN 00110. And then there was another one that was right above it on the list from, I think it was 2022.
Okay, so the one that we would be referencing then is the one that's 19 PLN?
Both could be referenced. I mean, the award could go to restoration hardware.
Right, we're not giving the award by the
Right.
permit number. It's to the building, so.
So from the list, I believe that we've narrowed down or removed 2. So is there any desire to remove any other?
Yeah, well, I think that we didn't talk about Peloton, and I would probably not choose that.
Well, is that one, is it built and done? Because
don't know.
I guess
I'm not sure.
the
I
goal,
didn't take another look at
yeah.
that one.
the goal for today would be basically, I guess, based on how we looked at my list as well, remove the ones that are not complete and then next, and, you know, highlight if there's something special, but next meeting, we will remove the ones that we just don't think qualify on a impressive standpoint. I don't know how else to say that. Just, you know, we've got the
So-
cream to rise to the top here. So I'd
So I
say,
think we have, you know,
Yeah.
I think there are at least 4 significant projects that I think
Great.
at the center, and they're all the more major really the major buildings.
Okay, excellent.
Uh,
All right.
All right, next list. Yingshi, you want to take it?
Yeah, so on my list, there are actually only 3 projects that is completed. So I will just point it out those 3. The first one is 2100 El Camino Rio. It's the grocery store. And second one that is completed is 1250 Page Mill. And the last one is down at the bottom is the 3215 Porter Drive. And
That's
yeah,
it. That's in the shopping center. I mean, in the research park.
research park, yeah. And the one that is under construction, and I think that could be a good potential for the next round is 250 Cambridge Avenue. That is on top. You can have a
Shortened your
lighter
list
shade.
quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, 250 Cambridge. If you could use a different shade for the next for next time. I think it has a good, it's under construction.
Wow, I had a negative reaction that 2030 going up there. Like, oh, geez.
So, with this 3 that is completed, I think the Porter, the one in the research park, Stanford Research Park, that has a good potential for the nomination of this year.
So Porter was complete, huh? I
Yeah.
haven't
Right.
been up there to see it, but it is
Yeah, it's beautiful.
really a nice project, yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you for that short list.
Yeah, it is quite short.
That makes our job easier too, ultimately.
Seriously.
Yep, I'll go through my list. My list is actually quite short as well. I'll just go from the top down and eliminating the first one, 420 Acacia has not started. So rollover, I suppose, for future. Same with 2609. Yeah, so no, row 3 is not even started. And so 2585, I will leave that there because I haven't visited that one and I don't know. I need to research the extent of the work in the first place. 2850 is under construction. So per board member Balte, it's probably pretty far from
Why don't
being
you leave it
completion.
on the list now?
Yeah, I
Somebody
would
should
leave it.
visit it.
I'll visit it
See
from
if
the
in
park
next
side
few
and
months
see,
it'll be
yeah.
finished. They're going very
Okay.
quick.
And I think would it be okay to contact the applicant to, just ask for projected completion dates with that?
I personally.
That information is available on the project website, so.
Because I dug around the website, I really couldn't get a sense of.
Okay,
Yeah, if it's not completed, like I can see the
If-
dates of permits and things, but I
Yeah.
can't really tell.
If it's not completed at this point, since, we were trying to focus on things that were completed by the end of the year, then if it's not completed now in January, then it probably should be safe for the next one. The question is whether in visiting it, you feel that it appears close enough to completion,
Right.
to be considered completed.
Yeah, so I'll leave that there and like visit it from other sides than Bay Shore as much as I can. And so let's leave that one there. Okay. The next one, the Clara Drive should go off the list. It was just a lot subdivision thing, not really any significant project. Next one down, 1700. That is the only one of 2 potential eligible because it looks very close to complete. So I would, yeah, that one. And then the highway overpass is also complete. 3600 Middlefield not started, 7088 San Antonio not started. 800 San Antonio also not even close to starting. Yeah, the last two also not started construction. So really 3, potentially 4, 2 to 4 potential from my list, yeah.
All right. Well, I believe that accomplished narrowing down the list.
Yes, quite a bit. So I would encourage my fellow board members to, with your short lists, take a second look at those items and decide if you think, for the next presentation and the next meeting we'll have on this, I think that we really do want to have a conversation on the ones that you think are cream of the crop here. So really sort of bringing forward the ones that you want to advocate for. Photos are helpful. So thank you, Peter, for bringing those today. And I would encourage us all to have photos of the ones that we would like to push forward for the next meeting. On that note, when would be the next meeting that we would discuss the ARB awards?
I think that we could accommodate February 20th. So that should give roughly a month.
Great.
Staff will, following the work that was done here in the meeting, send out a revised shortlist and we can just go from there.
Perfect. And then in terms of, I think item number 2, we were going to try and tackle today is when we could set the awards for. I don't know what the best way to go about that is. So we could just throw a dart in May and hope for the best, or if there's a more logical way to select a date, I'm all ears.
Well, I think a few things to be considered. So based on probably the February 20th meeting, how confident the board feels of narrowing down that list of however many projects that would be down to 5. And once we have that, staff will need to do some outreach to the applicants as well as the owners, just to make them aware. We'll go through the process of creating the awards, and I think some of that would require conservatively at least 1 month, maybe 2 months. So let's keep it more on the 1 month side. And I think that would project us out to late spring, so March, April, and keeping in mind that the new board composition probably could come in April as well. So if there's a desire to narrow down to late spring, that could be selected, an actual date. The bylaws do mention coordination with city council for some proclamations, as well as utilizing the bank of monitors out in the lobby and adding to our webpage. So I think the 2 suggestions that were provided in the staff report were to either select a date or defer selecting the date to the next discussion. And I think perhaps the first item of deferring, selecting a date to the next discussion would be probably prudent based on the discussion today, but that is up to the board to decide.
I would agree with that. However, I would like to, for the next discussion meeting on February 20th, I would like to make sure that we have items aware. So for example, if we did, I'm just throwing this out there, an April 24th awards ceremony, we would need to have all materials back to staff by April 17th so that we can make sure we have a week to sort of prep everything. We would want to allow the award recipients to have a month to prepare their boards to be displayed. So that would drive us back to March 27th-ish, 20th even. And again, I'm just sort of looking at Thursdays because that keeps it a little easier. So going from February 20th to March 20th, that's 1 month of time for us to really shortlist and then notify the applicants of their awards and then to allow them a month to do that. That does seem feasible to me. It does seem a little bit tight in terms of if anything sort of got any hiccups along the way. But that's a potential way to work that backwards. I really would like to see how long we think each step will take and make sure we're not missing any steps. And we're not trying to shove too much in a too short of a timeline. But just out of the gate, that makes some sense to me in terms of feasibility. So having that at the end of April,
Could I suggest
Please.
a little bit less ambitious a schedule?
I would agree with that too, actually.
If we say that within a month, next meeting or the meeting after that, staff comes back with a comprehensive list with all the feedback from us, maybe a photo attached to each item in the Excel spreadsheet, like a plumbing schedule. We're used to those, right?
Yep.
With visuals that us and the public can understand. We make either final decisions or at least really nail it down a lot. Then at a subsequent meeting to that, sometime in March, we make a final round of decisions. These are the winners.
Okay.
So you have 2 agendized meetings where we finalize this discussion at the most. And then I think it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to get applicants to prepare the presentation information we need for the public to make this work. So really what we should do is set a time in May sometime. What I'd like to recommend is that staff coordinate with the city clerk's office. What is the best time within Palo Alto to have this awards ceremony? We'd like to do it sometime in the spring. So that's May, maybe June. But let the city staff figure out when is the time to put all this together. But we can commit to having the awards decisions made in March. And I think you really need to give yourself 2 months to get the material together. It took quite a while last time to actually get people to put it together.
I think that's great feedback.
There's, there are standards that for the mounts themselves that were sent to the applicants, right? To the winners.
Yes, staff would be
You
sending
have
them.
do you have all those somewhere? You have a list of
Yes,
descriptions of the boards, how they should appear, the dimension of the boards.
yes, all of that
Okay,
will
so
be
that
provided
much
to
is
the
done.
applicants.
It was a
So-
D sheet, vertically oriented with on a foam core or something.
Vertical, we actually allowed horizontal, I
allow
think, as well.
Okay.
But all the same size.
But that can be ironed out. Maybe what we should do is request of staff at our next meeting, we'd like to have the date finalized. So you have 2 to 4 weeks to coordinate with the rest of the city departments. What is the best time? And then let's at that time have a tentative list of how we want to see this presented. So again, if you could dig up from the last award ceremony, what was the description we needed to have, that would be good.
The other thing, I think we could probably in one meeting make our decision about the projects too. I think that's.
I'd like to hope so, but
Yeah.
if you
No, I
remember
think-
from last time, it took more than that.
No, I think we were pretty efficient last time.
Based on the administrative record, it did take 5 hearings to go.
5 hearings.
Yes.
So I think if
We will be
separate
more
discussion-
efficient than that.
if we collectively agree that
Now,
we're going to allow ourselves.
Are
2
you saying
hearings,
that this will be our second one for this year?
So it'll be the first one this year, just because the year started, but this is the second discussion
Second discussion,
Yes.
yes. Okay.
of the awards
So-
for the 2025 awards. So
Well, I guess I didn't remember exactly. What were you fighting about then, Peter?
Well, I'm just saying it, if we commit ourselves to making a decision within 2 more hearings, absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Great if we can do it in one.
I think
Let's see what our
we could try
consensus
for
is.
one, and if we fail, it would have to be 2.
What would be really helpful is to get the same Excel spreadsheet, this time vetted thoroughly by staff, so we're not the ones sorting out projects under construction. In each cell in Excel, you can paste a photograph. Be consistent on the formatting. All of us have to supply them with the photos of the projects within our district. When you put that document together, it's very clear to us which building you're talking about. It's
Mhm.
also very clear to the public, and we want any input we can get. But if you present it well enough, then maybe we can make decisions.
thank you for that. And I will work in the background
You like-
between now.
You like
and-
assignments, we'll find some more.
Yeah.
So marching orders for my fellow ARB members is to
Yeah.
really revet your list. The ones that you are sort of fond of, take a little extra photos, right? Push those forward over to Stephen and make sure that we've got that moving forward. So if there's some that you just feel you can let go of, let go. I don't think we need to create extra work if, somebody's not fully on board advocating for the project. So And then Stephen, apparently you've got a little work cut out for you too. So apologies for that.
I do have some homework, and you all can anticipate receiving something shortly. It will take some time, as what was mentioned today, of compiling that new list as well as adding the photos and detailing for the more information that was requested today in the staff report for that February 20th hearing. So
Great.
we can
Thank
look
you.
forward to that.
Appreciate
If
that.
you could, last award ceremony, Board Member Hirsch went out of his way to ensure that the public libraries had a place to display the award-winning plaques. I think that was very successful, and I'd like to see us do it again. That would involve you reaching out to the library division and coordinating the schedule again. So which is the time of year that would work for them?
What I recall is that there was a really nice spread in the room in front, with a lot of really interesting food.
At the main library, right?
No, here.
Oh, for the
Here.
ceremony
I'm talking
itself,
about the
yes.
ceremony.
Yeah.
But I was disappointed that we didn't get more. We got maybe one council person there. We should really get them all if we can, because part of this is an exercise in educating them to what make nice buildings for Palo Alto. And I think it's an important one to try to get them all to come if they could. I don't know how you do that, but do it.
You involve the city clerk. That's their job.
Uh-huh.
And they will
We will
communicate.
work on that. And then one clarifying question, would it be helpful to have any sort of revised version of the spreadsheet as you move forward? Or do you have the information you need for the research you're doing? I just wanted to make sure we had a clear understanding whether Stephen's providing you any additional information before you're going out and taking those photos.
I think it'd be great if you could send the revised one we just edited collectively
With that, okay, we can do that.
through the chair, but that's what I would do.
I think that's great. Okay. Let's end that discussion for the day. Thank you very
Great.
much to my board members and to staff. We will move on to agenda item number 4, if I'm not misnumbering things, which is the approval of minutes. Do we have any adjustments to the minutes as they are presented? None? Okay, I move to approve the minutes as written.
No second?
We get a call for vote?
Board Member Edco,
Yes.
Board Member Bolte,
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chen,
Yes.
Chair Rosenberg.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, on to board member questions, comments, announcements, future meetings or agendas. I have one brief announcement is that I am now taking part in the Council for Housing Development in downtown Palo Alto as well. So that is just something that if there's anything pertinent as we move forward with that committee, I'll be presenting to the board as I feel it is pertinent to architectural review. That committee it was the first meeting on Monday night, and we will be meeting once a quarter, it seems to be. It's not going to be quite often. So I will just update as we have anything that comes forward that I feel is interesting or pertinent for the architectural review board to know. So any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
There are 2 other areas where there are general plans going to be done and committee meetings and community meetings parallel to as they proceed. And one of them is San Antonio Road Study, and another one is Cupperly, which is just actually starting with a meeting next week. I'd like to be on the Cupperly to report back to the board what proceeds there, and somebody else might want to pick up the San Antonio Road if there is an interest in having somebody at those meetings. That committee, I think, is not yet formed.
We are working to get a consultant on board for the San Antonio specific plan area process. So we're right at the beginning of that process.
How long would that take before? you
So
think?
we are hoping to get to council for approval of a contract within the next couple of months so that then they can proceed with the work of pulling together the different components of that project.
Okay, so we could wait on that one.
Great, but I
But
appreciate you
are
bringing it
there-
forward.
I would like to sort of make a general statement. You know, we are focused, as we have been here just today, on specific buildings, but urban design issues could become more significant. We were, in fact, pulled into a discussion about El Camino Real's district and had some comments to make, significant ones, I think, about that. And therefore, you know, we should be responsible for making comments about general planning, urban design issues. And I think it will become more important as we go on to larger housing projects for the, you know, for the city. So keep it in mind that you at planning think of us as informed people about urban design areas and should be consulted.
Thank you. You are a valuable resource to the town. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Thank you. No other comments or announcements? All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.